over 7 years of doing this is the leading, most common question that I get asked at the outset of every single consultation. There's many different ways of doing this, which is good news. The first two questions you would need to ask yourself is, where do you want to live and where do you want to get married? And there's a couple of examples and ways of doing this that will just follow. If you only wanted a UK wedding but you were intending on living abroad, then what you do is not apply for one of the settlement categories and apply simply for a marriage visitor visa. This is a 6 months visitor visa of a special kind that simply allows you to get married in the UK and then go back home before the visa expires. If you were engaged but you weren't married yet and you wanted to get married in the UK, then what you would do is apply for a fiancé visa. This is a 6 months visa within which you actually have to get married in the UK. But unlike a marriage visitor visa, though, you don't have to leave the country at the end of it. Instead, what you do is get married within those 6 months and then apply for a further extension for another 2.5 years and continue living in the UK. If both of you wanted to get married abroad and then come to the UK to live, then you could apply for what's called a spouse visa, because you're both spouses at that point effectively. This is a 33-month visa that allows you to come to the UK and continue living here for the 33 months initially and then a further extension for 30 months. Unlike the other two visa categories, you will have full permission to work and access to NHS, which effectively makes it the cheaper and the better version of all three visa types. The spouse and the fiancé visa applications are very document heavy and essentially covered by the same branch of law called Appendix FM. This is broken down into 5 fundamental areas. They are relationship, accommodation, English language and TB test, suitability, and financial requirements. The relationship evidence is one of the key areas that you have to cover. Obviously, they have to show the background of the relationship and that you are a genuine and subsisting couple. All previous relationships have to be demonstrated as having broken down, so that's a divorce certificate or a death certificate, and then you have to show that your relationship had a natural start and has progressed onto the present visa stage. So the kind of evidence that you would want to include is evidence of communication, of seeing each other, of family members having seen each of you and writing letters of support to that effect, photographs together, maybe even family holidays and couple holidays, Facebook messages, calls. These are all useful evidence. It sounds all intrusive, but it's really not, because you can selectively produce the data that you actually submit. You would need to show where you will live together as a couple. It can be an owned property, a rented property, or even a family member's own home in which they are willing to rent you one room for you to live together as a couple. You'd also need to demonstrate that there's no other residents in the property and that you have legal permission to live there. If there are other residents in the property, then you would need to demonstrate that there is one separate bedroom available for you as a couple and the property is not going to be overcrowded per Home Office's definition. Applicants from certain non-majority English-speaking countries need to sit a very simple basic speaking or listening test that lasts under 10 minutes. If you do, however, have a master's, PhD or a bachelor's degree that was taught in English, then you can bypass this altogether. Another test that nationals of some countries need to do is for tuberculosis. It's a test that you would sit locally within your own country, and there's only a certain number of testing centres that are available. It's pretty easy to do. It's usually done by a blood test or by an X-ray scan, and you get your certificate within the 7 to 10 working days following that. The most important element out of all 5 is probably the financial, where most applicants will face the most difficulty. For example, you could be a sponsor living and working in the UK and in your job for at least 6 months and earning above the gross annual minimum, which is called the threshold of 18,600. If you have that, then there is nothing further that you would need, or you could rely on other things, for example rental income or self-employment. If you have no forms of income, then you would need a staggering amount of cash savings to the value of 62,500 held in cash in your account for a period of 6 months before you get to apply. The suitability criteria is to do with a person's background, immigration history and previous refusals. The first thing that you would need to show is that you have got no adverse immigration history. This could mean overstaying. For example, you've come into the UK and not complied with the visa conditions and actually overstayed. It could also mean having civil or criminal convictions, including driving offences. If you did have one of those, did you comply with the disposal and can you prove it? The suitability criteria can actually be the sole cause of refusal, even if the 4 prior eligibility requirements are all met.